Hello. Hi, everyone. Good to see you again. Hope you had a pleasant Gesundheit. Hope you had a pleasant morning, and welcome to today's panel session that we will discuss. We'll see two examples that are great examples from the Nordic region about their national sustainability programs utilizing the GSTC framework and GSTC recognized standards or GSTC accredited certification bodies and so on. My name is Ariel. I'm the General Manager of GSTC. And before I'll introduce and give ample of time to our speakers, Ingun and Lisa, let me share a little bit from the GSTC perspective on why do we have such a panel here on this topic? Because we have so many different sessions about different topics. Some of them are specifically for destinations, some are specifically or aimed for accommodations or just people that are interested in those relevant topics. But as Randy mentioned at the beginning, at the welcome opening ceremony and then during his presentation, we have a program where we work closely with GSTC destination members. We don't act as consultants or tell exactly you need to do this to make your destination exactly more sustainable. But what we do is that we provide our expertise and guidance on what is happening around the world in terms of using the GSTC framework, where certain programs worked more than some other places that they worked less. Sometimes we have programs that don't want to mention the term certification at all. I see here a few that represent the destination that barely talk about it, right? But they really are great destination that utilize the standards, but not talking about certification at the beginning. So the thing is that the GSTC criteria is global, and in that sense should be available to be applied anywhere and everywhere. But obviously, in different places, different locations, different destinations, countries, and so on, we have different realities. Sometimes we have different political structures, sometimes we have just different type of culture, and sometimes the tourism activities and so on are very different. A developed place, a developed destination that has been catering to tourists for tens of years, for decades, or maybe 200 years, one of the first destinations in the world, like here that we've heard on how many people have visited Djurgården over the past few hundred years. But perhaps we have a country that is now struggling with the development of their tourism industry, and we still provide them some guidance on what has worked in other places in terms of using standards, in terms of promoting certification in the public sector, in the private sector, by DMOs and by hotels and tour operators. So that is just an introduction to say that we are very happy to share these examples. You'll see that they are different. There are some similarities, perhaps in certain sense. And the similarity would be that they all use the GSTC criteria, so we have that basic information, basic language that we're able to speak about. So even if it is a destination in Norway, or if it is a destination that is certified in Singapore or in Italy, different languages, different realities, but the language about sustainability would be similar. And that's the strength of the GSTC criteria and the framework. So remember that it's there for you and can be utilized and can be adapted to your local realities. Now, without taking too much time, let me introduce our first speaker, Ingun Sørnes, who is also a GSTC board member, but now she is mostly speaking as a special advisor on sustainability at Innovation Norway. For the past 2 decades, Ingun Sørnes has been with Innovation Norway, which is the Norwegian governmental organization for innovation and development in industries in Norway, including the tourism industry. Earlier, she was employed at the Norwegian Ministry of Agriculture, then the State Bank of Agriculture before entering the Norwegian Industrial and Regional Development Fund. Being appointed at Innovation Norway to lead the work toward a more sustainable tourism, her work now includes policy development, measures, and incentives to increase sustainability within tourism in Norway. And that, of course, includes the developing and implementation of national standards for sustainable tourism at destination levels, which we will hear about now. Ingun.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Roy, for the introduction, and thank you, GSTC, for inviting, and also Visit Sweden for making a fantastic conference here in Stockholm. We even have the host in these localities here, and that's very nice. So we are all gathered along the same issues. I will briefly, because such a task is a huge task, so I will do it quite fast, but it will still be a lot of words, so just keep yourself awake, because it will be some content. We have a national program, and as Roy said, we are the Innovation Norway. We are handling different industries, among them tourism. We do both Visit Norway, which is the marketing side, and we do the development side. And I'm going to tell you more about what we do at destination in particular. And I will briefly bring you through what brought us here and where are we today, more or less. So just to say something about the brand Norway, what we have. It's associated with nature. It's nature-based. It's our asset. It's our value, among them also culture and other issues or assets. But the natural phenomenon and the dramatic nature is our core asset. That means we need to take care of it, because it doesn't look vulnerable, maybe, but it is. But we also are modern people living in nature. We have scattered population all over the country, so we have smaller communities all over the country. I think even more than Sweden, we like to say. No offense. It's okay. We have 357 municipalities, 15 counties. So it's a lot of small pieces put together, regional cities all over the country. And I have to tell you that we have DMOs mostly all over the country. And Randy Durban said that he noted them as public sector. In Norway, they are not public sector. They are mainly member-based private organizations, but sometimes supported by public sector. So this is a huge difference. You have to keep that in mind when I present. No national or local tourist tax. I can see countries here who might have it or discussing it, but we have no yet. And earlier, where the GMOs were concentrating on marketing, they are now pushed also more into management. Not just invite the tourists in, but to see, what are we going to do if they arrive? So that's very, very populistic said, but it's something about what is happening at the destination. So in 2008, we got the mandate. We should mobilize the whole tourism industry in Norway, all stakeholders in a process towards increased sustainability. That was the one task. The other task was to test a concept of sustainable tourism development in destinations. So these were the two tasks. I will concentrate on the last. The first one concluded with a long mobilization with all stakeholders in different sectors, transport, overnight, and then we formed some policies, and a lot of them were were using certifications as systems. So we were analyzing what's wrong, what could be better, and then the solution very often were putting things into certification. But the last one was to test the concept for sustainable tourism in destinations. So we had the ambitions, and they are still ongoing. This is important to us. We wanted holistic tourism development, and this is a word that has been used these days quite a lot. Holistic is a lot. It's wide. Long-term commitment was what we wanted, not a project. that you leave the next day when the project leader disappears, it's over. We wanted continuous improvement. And we wanted an involving process because tourism is handled both in public sector, in private sector, and the society are affected by tourism. So we wanted a transparent national standard. We wanted measurable, aligned indicators, tools, and relevant incentives. And as the body Innovation Norway we could put up also incentives to attract the industry to go into working on sustainability. So this is the mixing table. That's what we felt for some years, some from 2008 to 2012. We tried to establish a common language. We needed to, when we were talking about sustainability, we had to mean the same thing. We had to put the same values, the same content in it. And the other thing I think was quite important, we kept it operational. We wanted actions, not theories, not papers, not things that could go into a shelf and stay there. We wanted things to happen. So we had a bottom-up process where we had local destinations and authorities together who formed what could they answer, what could they do when it came to sustainability. And at the same time, we were working top-down from national authorities to see what kind of structures could we make, what kind of things could we build, what kind of tools were needed, ownership, commitment. Yes, so this was kind of, you see the picture, both ways. This was the visionary framework, value-based. You recognize everything about sustainability there, quite wide. I don't read it, you can see, maybe. So, but it has these environmental, social, economic matters. Climate is put here, visitor management in the middle. So this was to make a common framework, so everyone were talking about the same things. Then we went on and built the standard, and as Roy were introducing, working on standards makes an agenda. It makes you have some difficult points, maybe sometimes, but at least a kind of recipe, some kind of guidance. The numbers you see is the number, the first number is the criteria, the number of criteria on each theme. The second is the number of indicators, measurable indicators. It could be, not everything is measurable. It could be percentage, it could be number, it could be yes, no. Do you have a plan? Yes. No. So, and you also see the environmental side, very strong. And all these were tested in the destinations and then formed. And as you see here, and this is where Roy also mentioned, we had a thorough process to get the standard recognized and aligned with GSTC 2 times, in 2018, 2022. And I can tell you, it's a job. But you get wiser by doing it, I'm sure. Then in 2021, we had a strategy, and these are fit together. Even if this came first of a scheme for destinations, it fits together with the strategy. The goals, the targets in the strategy fits with the program. Then we have been working on involving and committing different partners. So in Innovation Norway, we had the head office, which me and my team here belong to. We have regional offices in every county. We have international offices. He's also here somewhere. Stockholm office. We involve tourism associations and organizations around. Tourism is a huge ecosystem. We offer the destination visibility. And according to the EU directive yesterday, this is interesting. We have important roles around the program. We have process advisors, one of them attending here. They are advising the destinations. We have independent audits performed both online and in our portal and on-site. And then there is a network of destinations who's building up a very strong network among the destinations now. This is the Outreach 2024. And I hope you don't know the country. It was very difficult to make the map. So it's not 100% correct. It is lacking a few destinations still because it is increasing very fast. But we now have 38 destinations that has gone through the program. It takes 2 years to do that. 16 destinations in progress, 17 today, I think. 133 municipalities and closer to 5,000. These destinations are covering around 5,000 enterprises. Yeah, this you can read by yourself. So we have templates, we have different tools, we have calculators, we have digital portals, handbooks, competence and networks. We have built a portal. Everyone has to enter and have to deliver all the indicators there. They have to upload their documentation. We have very clear description of what kind of documentation they should use, the methodology, the sources, and everything is there. And then we have, and this is testing, we have tested some calculators to assist the destinations on seasonality, CO2 emissions, and so on. Consumption, important things for tourism. And then we have a lot of destination stories. I will not go through all of them, but they are all now. Because when we revised the standard to GSTC's latest standard for destinations, we did something I think was quite clever. We transformed the first criteria from GSTC into our standard word by word. So that means the destination needs to have a destination management organization in place, and it needs holistic strategies for operating tourism. Very short. These are cases. This is a very nice destination. It is actually 11 municipalities who have gone through the program, and the project leader is a hero, because it is a lot to run such a region. And then we have here old energy consumption, energy production area. Lofoten is one of them. Lysefjorden, which is a natural, beautiful area. Bergen with rain also. So this is something we think that the program makes the destination meet national and local challenges better, more resilient than they would do without the program. And we have managed to put up some measures, monitoring and benchmarking. And sometimes we see that having worked through this advances the dialogue in the destination on sustainability. It is kind of what we call a back wall, because you can say the standard is saying this and this. We are to work in this and this direction. So I think that's a good thing. The challenge is the business models of DMOs, because, as I said, working on marketing, for many they see that was easy. This is difficult to work on management, to put all this ecosystem together. And it exposes that there is a weak mandate, at least in Norway. I hope you are better off, but in Norway, it's a weak mandate on tourism management by the public and private sector. It's not clearly defined who's responsible at the local level. Yes? We have a quote here because the network of destinations is now building up a strong an organization that really matters nation-wise. And I think that's very important. And they have quoted that sustainable destination branding scheme is today seen as the premise and the very basis for development of the tourism industry and across destinations in the whole country. So it's seen as a strong tool that are also integrated in other processes. So at the national level, that we as a national actor is doing this is quite important to us. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ingun. Okay. By the way, you can, if you're interested, you can already log in some of your questions into Slido, but of course we'll answer it only during the Q&A. Now, let me introduce Lisa Kokarinen, Head of Sustainable Development at Visit Finland. Lisa is Visit Finland's leading expert in sustainable development, and she is passionate about using tourism as a catalyst for better. At Visit Finland, she heads the National Sustainable Travel Finland program, which we will hear about shortly. Experienced and educated in Arctic matters and sustainable development, Lisa always is seeking solutions to decarbonize, reduce inequalities, and ways to leave the place better. She firmly believes that investing in climate action and sustainable tourism secures the long-term visibility and viability of the entire industry. It creates profoundly positive impact and ensures continuous happiness for everyone, for us now and in the future. Lisa.
Thank you so much, Roy. Thank you also, Ingun, for showing and presenting us the case that how things are in Norway in terms of sustainable tourism development. It's really nice to be here. I didn't know that this this room was full. So this is really something very positive to begin with. I want to also start, just like Ingun, I want to give you a little bit of a brief background that what were some of the driving forces and why did we start investing so much in sustainability in tourism, and then briefly show you that where we are now. Before, I also want to make one connection with this image. It was actually coincidence that I chose this image, or maybe it wasn't, maybe it was something in the back of my mind. You can see the road there in the image on the other side of the river, and that's one of the people, at least the local, thinks that this is one of the most scenic rides in Finland. But while you're driving on this road, you're actually seeing Norway, which is on the other side. So we are neighbors. We actually share a very long border, which is mainly a natural border, so the river. When you cross the river, no one will, by the way, stop you. There is no border control. As you can see, there is no one controlling that. Funnily enough, anyway, the language changes, at least the national language, not the local language, because this is indigenous lands. But also the time zone changes. And currency. Nature remains the same, and I think that the lifestyle of the people as well. But back to the driving forces. Why did we start investing so much in sustainable tourism? With Sustainable Travel Finland, the story started 2018, so actually 10 years after Norway. We didn't really have significant numbers of tourists, but the numbers were going up really rapidly, and the first signals started appearing that tourism might have a negative impact as well. At the same time, our government announced really ambitious climate goal for Finland, for being the most ambitious one in the world, which meant that every industry, every citizen, every organization had a role to play, and for us, for our role, it was to see that how can tourism industry do their share to reach this goal. Another driving force was the stakeholders in the industry. We surveyed them in 2018 about their ideas that how should we approach sustainability in tourism. And the majority of the stakeholders were saying that we should have some kind of systematic common program, common goals, common understanding that what does it mean, the sustainability in tourism in Finland. And at the same time, the respondents also were saying that it should be something educational, that we need to learn about it before being able to act more sustainably. And also, people wanted everything to be in one place. So it was too overwhelming. There was so much information, but what was the correct information? So that was the role then that we took. We built a common path for the industry, but not alone. So we didn't just grab GSTC standard and said that, okay, here is what we're going to do now in Finland. We took the internationally acknowledged sustainable tourism standards and goals, and then we worked on these together with the DMOs, together with the businesses, but also some other really important stakeholders, as, for example, heritage sites or wildlife and parks of Finland for the nature protection. Also for the certification bodies, they were really important stakeholders for us from the very beginning, but also, for example, educational institutions. And that's how we then built the common path. So it's a 7 steps that businesses in Finland and the destinations are taking together. So now we have a common understanding in the country that what is sustainable tourism in Finland, and in every step we have then built the educational content, the needed tools. And on those steps are also those GSTC standards, the criteria, which is kind of like laid them down in a different way. And I will point out to you a few of these steps that how you might start seeing suddenly very familiar GSTC standard behind there. So first of all, one of the steps is certification. So the businesses need to have a certification that we have accepted under the Sustainable Travel Finland umbrella. Some of you might know this, that hey, these are not all GSTC recognized, and this is very true. So for example, you might have organic farm or a church, which is a tourism attraction, but their main purpose is not for their existence is not tourism. So we actually have in Finland a certificate for sustainability certificate for churches or for organic farms. So we accept these certifications under the umbrella because they serve the best that kind of attraction that who may not even have any kind of access to GSTC recognized certification. So it's very important also for the certification to have that specific impact for a specific business. And the destination role here is to help the regional businesses to getting certified. So we have very ambitious goal for the destinations, for them to fulfill the criteria on this step. Over half of the regional businesses must be certified and have the Sustainable Travel Finland label as well. Going forward to the step 4, sustainable tourism indicators. In addition to the GSTC, we have also used the European Tourism Indicator System framework for the tourism indicators. Randy mentioned yesterday in his opening speech that we don't have enough data in tourism. I will show you a little bit later that how it starts showing that when you collect the data from the businesses and destinations. Then, for example, the step 6, which is the development plan. We all know that who are in there, who have ever applied any certification, that how much reporting it is, and it's not any easier with Sustainable Travel Finland. So there is a common goals or common themes that I'm now focusing here on the businesses that they need to report to. But of course, a little the emphasis might change. So for example, if your business is that you are running snowmobile safaris, so for you, safety will be very important. Emission reductions will be, for example, really important. Or that how you utilizing the existing infrastructure, such as, for example, the routes. So emphasis might be different, even that everybody have the same common themes in their development and action plan. And finally, if a business or a destination fulfills all the criteria and standard set on these common 7 steps, they will be recognized by the Sustainable Travel Finland label, which is then also the application is then audited by a third party. So it's not only the certification, but all the other criteria on all the other 6 steps in the program. And so what are we doing at Visit Finland? Are we then marketing a lot about Sustainable Travel Finland program? No. That's for us the criteria for those that we are providing visibility. So now we have 5 destinations. We have over 400 businesses, and those businesses create more than 1,300 experiences in Finland. So it's those that we promote. We don't need to put them necessarily any kind of label. It's the criteria how we have selected them for our fam trip or media trip or social media campaign or to joining us for a sales trip, for example. But what's next? So now we have this program, it's working, it's very well adapted by the industry. But where are we now? Actually, these are the figures from last year, so it's not exactly where we are here on April, but this is showcasing the figures from last years. And this is the data that we get because we have the indicator system built into the Sustainable Travel Finland program. And here is chosen figures especially related to climate, because in the beginning I mentioned that I will focus on few of the driving forces. Like Ingun mentioned, that it really has to have the holistic approach. But if I would be telling you about all what the program is, we would be still being here tomorrow. So I'm focusing on some aspects, and I think that there isn't enough ever noise, for example, about the impacts of our industry to climate. So we're doing pretty well in some areas. So we can acknowledge our strength. But I really think that it's important about having the data is to understand that where are the development areas in your industry. And that's how we can then improve the program. That's how we can start bringing that knowledge and build that competence on those areas that we must be lacking some competence because we are not doing so well. Randy also in the opening speech mentioned that not many companies are, for example, measuring their carbon footprint. 49% of the businesses in our national program are measuring it. This figure will go up because it will become compulsory. At the moment, it's optional because it takes time. You have to educate the industry before making some criteria compulsory. But this is clearly something we need to work on, because we still have half of the businesses that for one or another reason are struggling with the measurement. We are also around 40% are taking actively actions to biodiversity protection. This is really something that needs to go up. We are facing the serious threat of biodiversity loss. So we have this data, and then we can utilize it to provide more competence and tools for the industry to excel in these areas as well. Last year, we published our first climate action plan, and we are also doing this under the umbrella of Sustainable Travel Finland program. We have 20 objectives there, and in total of 163 actions, all publicly available, and we will be reporting the progress on an annual basis. And I think that this transparency is really important in sustainability as well. So all your partners and all your stakeholders know that what's going on and what will be happening next. Talking about what will be happening next, we will of course continue the so-called traditional climate action, so focusing on how to reduce those adverse impact of tourism and how to reduce emissions. But also we are moving on to taking actions that actually increase that positive handprint to the environment where tourism operates. So what it means for the destination or a business perspective, it's also about the resilience, because through the actions then you're learning, for example, how to adapt to climate change or how to adapt nature-based solutions. And it's also really important to start very proactively and systematically to take those actions that actually do not only protect your local biodiversity, but also support it, to restore it. It's a nature, like Ingun started, it's about nature. If we don't look after that nature, we won't have tourism product in the future anymore either. And with these actions together, we hope that we are starting to take that journey that our industry will start regenerating instead of deteriorating the destinations where we operate. Thank you.
Let's move to sit over here. One quarter. It's a little bit warm, but we got the air circulation started. All right. So first, thank you so much. I think it was a very interesting option for us to learn on some of what you're doing. And now we can dive in to ask some questions. So I will start with a question that I have prepared before, following some of the presentations that you sent me before today. For Ingun, I'd like to ask you, what do you think the benefit of having actually a national program that provide guidance into perhaps just letting them be on their own? Why not just let it be guided by the international, already existing standards and labels and so on?
I can only answer for us in that way, that have tested. We don't know the reality without the standard. So it's. I think that it binds together the destinations throughout the country in a totally different way than it would do without the standard. And it makes also both maybe the language, the indicators, the possibility in benchmarking the same indicators throughout the country. Mm-hmm. It's totally different than if they should go to different schemes, counting things in different ways, I think. And of course, it demands that you really put priority on building a national program, because it's quite a big task. But I think it gives destinations a type of support that they might not have if it was only destination by destination in different schemes, maybe. Yeah.
And in the cases you explained at the beginning, but I think it's very important, is that you mentioned that the DMOs are actually mostly associations, right, of local businesses with some support for the government, which means you have more than just speaking with one stakeholder that you perhaps are a little bit above for them, or you perhaps control a little bit of the funding, but when you're speaking with so many stakeholders, there are some challenges there.
Yes, of course, and it pushes, in a way, the responsibility down. I look at one of the destinations here. I know she has a hard task because she is the one again, handling all the businesses and all the tasks at the destination. But it in a way, divides some responsibilities. We can give support, we can give, I said, incentives. We actually can finance part of the process the first time they deliver, and then when they deliver again, to do the analysis and such things, to put up the project leader, to put up the system. And that's something you can do when you use the methodology in the whole country. And it creates a network that is quite fantastic, I think.
Thank you. And let's take one question from the audience from Julia. To you, Lisa, as you can see, how are you working for Visit Finland? How are you working with incentives to get the company to report their impact?
Well, very good question. But everything is built in the program. So we have especially like a purpose-built digital platform where you take these steps and where are the tools. So for example, if you want to access the carbon footprint calculator, you log into the Sustainable Travel Finland platform, and there is also the educational content and all that. You're kind of like ticking the boxes there and doing the reporting there. So the incentive really is that if you want to complete your application, you really have to provide also the data, and you have to submit your development plans. And it's become like this industry standard. In the beginning, I think it was more challenging. It was more like for those forerunners, but I think that it has become the standard that, you kind of like either you're in or out, that it's just one of those things that you do. You prove your sustainability and you adapt those actions. But of course, then the incentives is also that added visibility. So we can't really promise for a company that what is the visibility, what you get. But we can promise that you won't get visibility if you don't go through the program.
Could you maybe elaborate more on the visibility aspect, right? So, I remember that when I looked at the Sustainable Travel Finland on the Visit Finland website, there's some information there. Are there some other places where there's some highlight of those that are part of the process, that are part of the program, of course, completed those steps?
Yeah, so it works as, for us the label, by the way, Sustainable Travel Finland program it's a program, it's a development program, it's not a certification. You do get a label if you fulfill all the criteria and you audit it, but it's not certification. But for us, this label is the criteria that how we start choosing. It's we prioritize those. So for example, that we do on our website, you mentioned the website, if we do some articles, let's say the best hiking places, for example, in Finland or something like that. And then we select there the companies with whom you can go and enjoy these hikes, or where you can stay during your hikes. That's how we use the criteria. That then we are like bringing those businesses there with the label. And it's the same, like for example, that if we are bringing tour operators to Finland to visit certain places, we prioritize those, that they get in this way more visibility in various channels.
And for your program, Ingun, there's also there's quite a lot of information and some promotional aspect, right, for those destinations that are considered sustainable.
Yes, it's we have in Visit Norway the national website. They are given both destinations and those who have an eco certification. We have, like Finland, we have put focus on some eco certifications used in tourism in Norway, and they have a kind of marked so that you can see, and they are given priority in the search and so on. And the same with the destinations. And we also do some events that we say you have to be certified as a destination, not certified or marked. It's very difficult in English with this wording. We call mark them. The destinations or the businesses, they have to have a kind of label to take part.
Okay. Let's take a question from Joel Libel from Hochkusten, the high coast here in Sweden. What are your recommendations for countries like Sweden that lack a national standard or a program for sustainable tourism development? But perhaps I actually want to make a comment and then hear your thoughts, right? Because you're mostly focusing on Finland, on Norway, right? You've been participating in some GSTC conferences, so you have probably your own thoughts and ideas about other programs. And Ingun, you're a board member, so you're quite involved and familiar with more programs. But let me share one thing. When we do have sometimes some NTOs coming to us and ask that, should we do one? Would it make sense? There's no one answer that would fit all countries in the world. All of you should do this, should not do that. It really depends on the structure and what's the current situation. So perhaps, right, so I mean, my own thoughts, speak now on behalf of Roy and not on behalf of GSTC for a minute, understanding that Sweden has so many DMOs that are involved directly with GSTC, and each one has a different program and different approach. That's because you are quite different in the destination level. Some of you are already working very closely with many of the private sector. We have here, I see in the back, one of our trainers, Jeppe Klokkerson, who is a GSTC trainer and has been usually roaming around the country to conduct trainings, and we hear that there's been bunches of trainings in one destination, but in one area of a destination it would be for the industry players, for the private sector, and different place it would be just for the people that are managing the destination. So there are just different approaches to your preferences, and it's not necessarily if there's already been in existence that situation, if there would be now a new program coming from the top, I personally don't think that it would be a good fit. It's not a formal GSTC statement here, it's my own personal opinion and experience. And it wouldn't fit because there's already an existing, very, very vibrant, active and positive ecosystem. So that might interfere with that. But there are some other areas where that would not be the case. And actually, perhaps there is already an ecosystem, but it's not a very healthy one, or perhaps not a very rigorous one. So there would be one area where the capital is great, but the more periphery is not so much. But I really want to hear your thoughts on that as well.
Really good question. I think I give it at first the easy answer. So, just become Finland. So then you... Oh, Norway. We neighbors already.
Yeah, we could split.
We can split. So who wants to go with Finland? But then it's been quite a process. So Ingun and I had like maybe 10-15 minutes time to go through our processes. It wasn't that fast. So I think that my recommendations would be to start with something existing. So, for example, Green Destinations and EarthChecks are providing excellent programs for destinations, and both are GSTC accredited. And then I'm sure that Sweden has very good, suitable existing certifications also for businesses. So I would maybe start with that, unless you have plenty of financial and human resources to start like a national scheme. But what I've learned from the Finland's case, that it's really important to have common goals, common view. So even if you utilize the existing program, still have some kind of common vision that where you are going and why are you going there, and have that framework, and also work with your international partners and with your neighbors to make sure that that standard that you are creating also meets the internationally acknowledged standards. That would be.
You have some thoughts from your side?
Her
Okay.
answer were very good, so maybe I should
Norway
skip.
part.
Yeah,
Well-
dividing. No, I agree also with you, Lisa, in that it has taken many years. You could see we are 11 years since we launched, and we were testing for 2 or 3 years. It was heavy. Actually, we launched in 2013. Before GSTC had their destination criteria. We came in March, GSTC in November, and they changed lately. So the standards are not quite similar. Ours were tested in the municipality quite thoroughly. But I think for Sweden, if we should recommend something, that even if you operate on different standards, you kind of slightly lose out the network type and the common values, as Lisa talked about. So maybe, who is here from Sweden? Maybe you should then kind of make a top layer at least to meet and discuss and not compete internally, because easily it could get in that direction, that you have one certification there, one there, and they would not talk the same language. But I agree, Roy, you have a good system, but maybe a national think tank, talk tank. Yes. Action tank. Yes, actions is better. Yeah.
So I see that we have a question from Anna-Lena, also from Sweden, and Linda Wisma, that are a little bit similar, and that's a little bit on the political decision-making aspect, and as part of it, funding, right? Do you see, right, your programs have been running for a few years now. When there is a change of the political level, and also changes in budgetary and so on, do you see that there's still, no matter what, carry on, or you see some challenges with such situations that might affect the program?
Yeah, if I start, definitely. Really good question, Anna-Lena. Every government seems to have like a special focus areas that which direction the country should be going. And of course, since we are also a governmental organization, we have to follow the governmental plan and the program. And it was also earlier, for example, that it did point us to the direction that we need to put a lot of emphasis on climate. So it does kind of like a guide us in a way. Our current government, which in my eyes are quite xenophobic, and they are, I think, a little bit afraid of foreign visitors, so they cut our funding to half. So, you know, but at the same time, they, for example, outline that we do have to have biodiversity roadmap. So then you're kind of like, okay, so this is really supporting us. This is the direction we were taking anyway. But with what funds are we then doing this? But in a similar way, it can really like support you. Because if you can point out to that the work that we do is totally supporting the governmental goals and the program, it can then also help you with your progress. So it can go in both directions, and luckily the government won't change more than in every 4 years or something, because it's challenging already enough.
Yeah, and we have got a new minister when I have been in Sweden, so I don't even have been on Norwegian ground with the new minister. So it's changing. Political focus are changing and so on, but to some extent, when it comes to budgets, we have done it without any earmarked budgets, but we have been able to prioritize within our budgets, and that is kind of good, because then you cannot be cut off of something you expect. We have struggled for every every year to get enough resources to work on this. But now we say it's not really only a program, it's the way we work. It's the way we should do everything. This is the value-based tourism has to be more managed on the ground, not just promoted. So this is the way we all have to work.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
Or as they say in absolute.
You mean impressive.
Let's move to something less funny. EU regulations. Ingun, after the session, we had a small chat right in the hall, Bob, and we were mentioning, you were telling me that you actually have been working with the Norwegian Consumer Council.
Yes.
To kind of address some of these related issues. It's not this specifically for these upcoming ones, but it's something that is already relevant. Would you mind sharing shortly about it?
Yes, and as the most of you know, maybe we are Norway, a non-EU member. But we are the first one to integrate EU regulations when they come. It's very easy. So the consumer authorities have already, or the council have already started packing up the messaging from the different institutions, and they look at public sector first. So with the public sector, we have a lot of messages for tourism. So they have been through our websites. And of course, we are vulnerable. We call it sustainable destination. We call it green travel. But the messaging so far, we have gone through everything, and they have made it clear that we need to look to the indicators. We need to tell what we are doing. We need to verify what we are doing. So this has actually been a positive process together with them to see that we are messaging the right things in the right way. So the editor of Visit Norway has been in long meetings with the advisors in the Consumer Council to message things right. So this is so we feel safe, at least until the EU regulation.
Thank you for sharing more about that very shortly. Now, because our time is up, I just want to finish with these things, ask you to say shortly, maybe one sentence, with the STF, the Sustainable Travel Finland. One big challenge, not necessarily the largest, one big challenge, and one huge, big benefit that you have seen over the past few years.
Well, I think that the biggest challenge is not so much of the program, but that's, of course, the accessibility. So we don't have any rail access to Finland, and we don't have alternative to flying, to be honest. There is a train coming to Finnish-Swedish border, but from our key markets in Europe, it takes approximately 7 times longer than the flight. So we can only reduce so much of the impact in Finland, but we have we are kind of like powerless when it comes to the aviation emissions. But then with the program itself, one of the biggest challenges that we have been the visitor and citizen surveys. So we have like a national framework, we have a national surveys, but the implementation, we haven't yet found the best way to implement these surveys so that we would get like a sufficient amount of replies from different destinations so that the data would actually be comparable, for example. I think that then the strength of the program has been that it has really kind of like laid the foundation, the solid foundation that what's our standard in the industry when it comes to sustainability. So it's this like shared standard.
Thank you. Ingun, one challenge, one
at the micro level, maybe at least for our programs, is to develop the data further. to develop the possibilities of utilizing knowledge, better knowledge from the data. That was short. And at the macro level, it's so much happening in the world that the focus is going anywhere. I feel that sustainability, it's partly a little bit on the way down. I don't know. We have to increase it again.
One small benefit.
The focus.
And a benefit.
Benefit is that we have a system for it.
Excellent. Thank you all very much. Really enjoyable session. And who's hungry? You have a meal up there under the boat. And you don't need to go out. Thank you very much.